Hey everyone. So today I want to talk about very briefly about some of the issues with developing full screen web apps for mobile. Now for Android this is actually pretty simple because it has support for the full screen API. So you can have an element request full screen and indeed it will get full screen. And that works just fine. On iOS, support for hiding the browser navigation explicitly programmatically was removed in iOS 8, and iOS Safari does not support the full screen API. But what you'll find is that when you use web apps in iOS Safari, if you scroll the page, or if you change the orientation, the navigation bars disappear. And that's obviously great, particularly for game development, where you want as much screen real estate as possible. However, in iOS, the full screen support that does still exist by changing orientation or scrolling is pretty fragile, flaky. It's quite easy to break it, so I'm just going to illustrate that for you right now. Would you like to know what the most frustrating iOS web development bug is in 2016? It's this one. Just change the device orientation and note the navigation bar reappears. Show that again. So screen sizes to fit, screen sizes resizes, and the browser Chrome reappears. What you can't see is that what's happening on the right is that there's some extra space appearing to the right of the main game content, and I don't yet know what's causing this, and I've tried the obvious things like progressively removing content from the page to figure out what's going on, but so far no joy. At the moment I'm doing the rather tedious thing of going back through my Git history from the last time it worked up until now to see what happened, and you'll see as well that it's also sort of scrolled the content up out of the way, and the code that makes sure that everything fits on the screen is resizing everything correctly. As you can see, it all fits on the rather small screen of my iPhone 5S. And this is another key point. So I support the iPhone 5S and above, and of course the iPhone 5S is not a particularly big phone. So screen real estate really is at an absolute premium. So it's really essential that that the browser Chrome disappears when you do the rotation. The other frustrating thing with this bug is that it reappears. So it's been caused by different things each time it's appeared so far, but this is probably the third or fourth time I've had to get to the bottom of why this is happening. Part of the frustration is it's not something it's easy to automatically test for. So it's pretty irritating. So just for contrast, I wanted to show you the behaviour that we see on Android. This might be quite tricky because this screen on this device, which is a OnePlus Two, actually emits polarised light. So when I rotate it through 90 degrees, the content appears invisible to the camera on my laptop. So, but I think I should be able to illustrate well enough what's going on here. So you can see when you change the orientation with Android, you can just about see the address bar doesn't disappear at all. Now, that's less of a problem, really, and there's nothing you can do to make it disappear. But that's not really a problem because on Android we have proper full screen support. So if I hit that button there, he said confidently, yeah, we get full screen. and you can exit that using the standard mechanism on Android, and you can play the game in full screen, and it works absolutely fine. So yeah, the problem we see on iOS doesn't simply, it's just by design a complete non-issue on Android. iOS used to allow web apps to hide the browser Chrome, so the navigation bar and the little toolbar at the bottom. But I think that was removed in iOS 8 because, obviously there were a few web apps out there, a few unscrupulous developers that abused that. Whereas on Android, it has the explicit full screen support, and I think it would be really nice if iOS had that as well, so you could just, as with the desktop browser, hit request full screen, and the user could grant permission and could easily exit from that mode. Safari on iOS simply doesn't have it, which is hugely frustrating. But yeah, there you go. That illustrates the difference, I think.